pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to our consensus agenda.
I move that we approve vouchers that have been written since our last board meeting, both accounts payable vouchers and payrolls. They total a number of $922,130.38, plus the minutes from the meetings that we had last month.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We will move on to patrons' comments. Miss Molly, nothing? No.
You get bonus points.
Yeah, you get bonus. Maybe we can get bonus points. You're the only one here. And at least I said your name so that the government teacher knows. Got it? Okay.
And everyone else who watches.
Yeah. So I guess we're not live, so if you have questions, please call the administration office later. We'll move on to the public hearing for the 2021 budget.
Do we have any questions on that, or Tom, would you like to share out on that?
As far as the CPF bus replacement and 2021 budget, the capital projects plan is just routine maintenance. We've got some tuck pointing on there for the buildings, ceiling tile replacement. We're kind of doing that in phases. There's money set aside for secure entrances and electrical upgrades, knowing that our plan is probably exceeding our approved budget, that the state will work in November probably. We'll have to make some cuts to that. Equipment-wise, we're looking at replacing a mower, or little ride-on mower, and then 2 buses. We are replacing one bus that is newer than the recommended 12 years. The maintenance cost on that, and the amount of maintenance that we have to do. Laura Baker, our transportation director, and Terry recommend that we move that up on this list to replace. As far as the 2021 budget, it's a very similar budget to what we have this year. We'll have, it's adjusted for the change in staff. As far as the education fund, debt service, 2021 will be the last year that we make a payment. I believe it's on the 2012 bond. So that one will be paid off at the end of next year. The way the bonds were structured, that just means another one is going to increase in our payment cost to offset that, so our tax rate remains flat. So overall, I expect our tax rate to be very similar to what it was this year.
Any questions? I assume you want approval for the budget, or just a public hearing?
This was just the hearing. I think below you'll approve the capital projects and bus replacement plans.
Okay, then we will move on to personnel.
All right, so Agenda 5, personnel. I recommend the approval of hiring Christopher Newman as the high school custodian, hiring Troy Shirk as a computer technician. And we'll go ahead and clump those two together. We did have to, in between the August board meeting and the September board meeting, make those hires, so they're doing an awesome job, so it's great to have them on board. But I would recommend their official hiring at this time.
Second.
It's been moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in-
Is Chris elementary or high school?
He's
Elementary. The next 3
Yeah, we got another one.
We didn't go.
sorry.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
That's why I
Yeah.
I recommend the approval. The next 3 are simply class sponsors. So we had a few people that just decided not to do that this year, so we've had other people step in to do that. So we have Brandon Young as the senior class co-sponsor, along with Christina Hartman, and then Tracy Nicely is the junior class sponsor, so I recommend the approval of those class sponsors.
I move we approve them.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
And I recommend the approval of Bria Montabeno's, Mrs. Montabeno's maternity leave. That'll be from 10/26 to 12/18.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
And last but not least, I recommend the approval of the 1920 bus driver wages.
Move to approve those.
Second.
It's been moved by Ken, seconded by Wes. Any dis-
Question.
Yeah.
Tom, can you tell us, is this just normal or is there something?
So there was a minor mistake in the wages from the previous
That's all
year.
you had to say. Sorry.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
we've had conversations with four bus drivers, and that's all square. We just want to make sure that we're doing that correctly. So,
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
okay, as we discussed briefly earlier, I recommend the adoption of the bus and the capital projects plan for this school year.
And I move we adopt the bus and CPO funds.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Kevin. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
The next item, Jordan Breeden, upon him coming on staff, what he's been doing is a lot of organizing and just making sure, getting to know what we have, what we need, and what we don't need anymore. And there is a surplus right now of outdated devices, some 7-year-old iMacs, there's some Hewlett or HP laptops that had previously been used that have now been replaced by Google Chromebooks. And we're simply asking, he is in the process of getting an exact number of all those and doing inventory before we obviously put those out to the public. But we're simply asking to be able to sell the old outdated devices when that time comes. So my recommendation is that we would do that. And I will make sure we share that list with both the board and the community when it's time.
I move we approve that.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
The next item, teacher appreciation grant policy. There's multiple policies that you can put in place. The one that we have chosen is to not differentiate the teacher appreciation grant for the teachers that have taught 1 to 5 years and then 5 to 35. What we have decided and what we've done the previous 2 years, and we will keep our policy, or I would recommend we keep our policy consistent, that we would simply give them their rightful piece of that teacher appreciation grant. So a teacher that teaches 1 year and is effective or highly effective would receive just as much of an increase as the person that has taught 35 years that's effective or highly effective. So instead of differentiating that and only using 20% of that pot for our 1 through 5 teachers, which honestly is quite a few people now, so that would significantly lower that number if we would like to be consistent with that.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Kevin, seconded by Steve. Any discussion?
This is a grant, right? This is not added to the base.
It's a teacher appreciation grant, so any teacher that's highly effective or effective and has been on staff is subject to receiving this, yes.
And
It's an incentive.
it's a one-time payment.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But it has been previous, I mean, it's been.
Yeah.
It happens every year.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I want to recommend the sale of overstocked PPE. When we came out with the Triton tubies, a lot of people have asked about those and have expressed interest in possibly purchasing those. So we did purchase those with corporation money, so we just want board approval. We're not going to make a lot of money off of those, but we also don't want to just give them away either for thwarted expectations. So we have had people ask about those, so we just want to get approval to make sure that that's okay with the board. So.
I move we sell those if we have extra.
Second.
Been
Oh,
moved-
wait.
It's been moved by Wes, seconded by Steve. Any other discussion?
Are we selling the cost?
So we're selling them a little bit above cost. So our cost was because of the quantity that we purchased. So we purchased them 2 for all staff. So that would have been approximately 500 of those. And then we purchased them for all students. So if we would have just purchased those for a small amount, then.
Along the same, to answer your question, the sprayers and thermometers that
Go along with that, right.
they're slightly below cost.
But we're selling them at market value.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll get as much money out of them as we can.
All right.
Right, correct.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
Every year we are expected to approve the latchkey provider. And this is, I believe, year 3 maybe, or 4, to approve the Learning Tree as our latchkey provider, so our after-school program. So I recommend that we approve them.
I move we approve Learning Tree as a latchkey provider.
The movement, seconded by
got a place to
Voted
be.
on.
Ken. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I'm actually going to skip over the bus routes because that really doesn't necessarily need approval. You know what, while we're talking about it, I'll just go ahead. Bus routes and safety policy have been reviewed. That is something that needs to be done every year. But obviously in that business piece of that, Mrs. Baker asked us to make sure that you know that no approval is needed, but we, on all of our routes, we are doing door side on state roads, as has been discussed the last couple of years after a lot of difficulty the one year, and there are no turnarounds on the state roads. And then, of course, our COVID response to that, just looking at our policies, what are we doing for cleaning purposes, and how we're making sure those buses are disinfected for the students that are on the bus, where they're seated, with seating charts, and making sure that we're not adding a bunch of new kids to those routes. We're asking parents to do 1 route pickup, 1 route drop off. So we've changed some of those procedures, but she did look at that, and that has been updated. So just wanted to make you aware
How
of
about
that.
this? I move that we acknowledge that the bus routes and the safety policy have been reviewed.
I recommend that we.
I second that.
There you go. Okay.
Third.
We got to finish.
All right. I recommend the approval of the S&K quote for the elementary school project. That's simply to put metal on the ridge caps around the elementary. I don't know exactly what that terminology is. It's going to obviously help a little bit with the water damage and the water getting back into the brick. Eventually it will be tuck pointed and stuff like that, but they really feel like that top cap needs to be covered, so it doesn't continue to show wear and tear.
I move we approve the quote from S&K for the elementary school project.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any other discussion?
What's the time frame on doing that?
So we're going to do it in sections. Tom, you want to give the exact?
I'll just look. Bruce?
He said he's going to get it done in fall break.
This portion of it, right?
He's going to try and do it.
Oh, he is? Oh, okay. Our first thought was we would do a little bit at a time, but I guess we're going to let it get that done. Okay, all right, very good.
All right. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
All right, and last but not least, this is a recommendation, but also an announcement for our community. FDA just came out with the ability to allow all of our students to have free breakfast and free lunch from now, or actually September 1st, which we're actually going to make that go public today, through December 31st. Now, I do want to make sure we understand that this is not a forever thing. They said that they would do this until essentially the money ran out, is the information that they gave us. But right now, as of today, I'm recommending that we allow both free and reduced students and full pay students to have free lunch and breakfast if they so desire from our cafeterias. So that could be a parent choice, but that's something that's been opened up to all public schools in Indiana. Whether they take advantage of that or not, that's up to them, but we felt like that was in the best interest of our patrons and our students. So I recommended that we use the seamless waiver option for free meals.
So when you say until the money runs out, may it not go to the end of December? Or do you think it,
The guidance that was put out was through December 31st or until funds are exceeded. So I'm assuming it will go to December 31st, but it's not guaranteed.
okay.
So we'll say December, what, 15th, 18th, or whatever is really all we need to get to Christmas break. So after that, it would just be extra, but I think it's a great thing. I mean, you think of a family with even one kid, but a family with 3 kids, that's going to be a significant savings over the next few months. And I feel like if we're able to do that, then by all means, we should be able to give that to them.
And we will be reimbursed by the federal government.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes, we'll be reimbursed at the free rate, which, in all honesty, is slightly more than a paid lunch plus what we get reimbursed at a paid lunch. So, I mean, it will be at no cost to the school corporation.
And our cooks are already in the process of getting food in anticipation of more
Yes.
kids.
And that was kind of our delay. So we had the conversations on Friday, a little bit more specific conversations, and the concern is if we get ahead of that with saying that, hey, we're going to go ahead and go, that they wouldn't actually be able to order that food. They're actually able to order the food on Tuesdays, and they get that on Wednesday. So our thought is tomorrow is probably not going to be a big enough impact to say, hey, we can't feed everybody. But I will tell you that was my biggest concern, is if we open this up, the last thing we want to do is say, hey, we open it up and it's free, and now all of a sudden we don't have enough meals to provide. So we don't feel like we're going to go there, but if we do, we'll obviously communicate that accordingly.
I move we approve this recommendation.
Second.
Been moved by Steve, seconded by Wes. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. We will now move on to core values.
All right, so for continuous improvement, I continue to be excited about being back in school. I think early on when we were talking about reentry plans and our framework for what that looked like, we had a couple teachers say, hey, I hope we make it 20 days so we can talk to our kids and they can learn what it might look like if we have to go virtual. Well, we made it to Labor Day. We're another day, another week after that. So just consider ourselves very, very fortunate that that's going as well as it has, and that can only be done because of just incredibly dedicated teachers who have faced this difficult transition with courage and hard work. All staff continue to be stretched with new expectations and procedures. They continue to do their best. At times it's not pretty, at times it's difficult, but they're doing a wonderful job. I think if you talk to our community right now, I think they're very, very thankful for our teachers and the staff that have put a lot of time and effort into making this happen. The transition has not been easy, and we continue to try to find a rhythm, but overall, despite the many challenges, our students are back, and we could not be more happy with the start. We continue to focus to not lose the good for the perfect, and for the most part, this is being accomplished. So we've had teachers frustrated. We've had staff frustrated to say it's not what it always is I just don't have my class in front of me. I have digital students at home, and it's extra work. But in the end, I think they're doing just a bang-up job, and I'm just really, really happy for that. Shared leadership, I'm thankful for the team that we have assembled, and I think each and every one of our leadership team members have the best interests of our corporation and our students in mind. They continue to challenge one another's thinking, adjust to the ever-changing demand on their time, and give their all to the corporation and the students they serve. Social responsibility. I will be meeting with a couple of town business owners and a board member to continue to discuss the possibility of getting fiber downtown to local businesses, including Triton School Corporation. This was a conversation we had under Mrs. Burrows, and what happened is as we got further and further down that conversation, we found out that it was not E-ratable, which meant it was going to be a significant cost for the corporation. And so what has happened in the meantime is multiple companies have continued to get closer and closer with fiber. That would be significantly faster, and my understanding is eventually would be significantly cheaper. And so we're going to continue to explore that option. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. I want to thank the Bourbon police officers who continue to patrol our campus on a daily basis and for their help implementing our new traffic pattern, which has been very successful and very beneficial to both our transportation department and our student safety. So I don't know if you've had the opportunity to be on campus in the mornings or the afternoons, but the middle of campus is is a lot safer for our kids that are walking back and forth, and a lot safer for our buses who are trying to maneuver with our students. So that was a real concern to start the year, but so far so good. It's going really well. Accountability, I want to thank retired Triton Elementary teacher Mrs. Belinsky for coming in and baseline testing most of our elementary digital students. The students were able to connect with a familiar face. Mrs. Belinsky was so welcoming to the students, and we know we were going to get reliable data with her giving that assessment. So I'm so thankful for the parents who were also willing to bring their children in. They all had great attitudes as they interfaced with Mrs. Belinsky and office personnel. So that was really neat to see them, because those are some of the students we haven't necessarily seen face to face the last few weeks. So they're doing well, and they came in and gave their best to Mrs. Belinsky. High expectations. I'm thankful for our coaches and instructors who have been working hard to meet the new expectations while still allowing our students to participate in FFA, band, cheerleading, football, cross country, tennis, volleyball, basketball. I hope I didn't forget somebody there, but just the fact is that we're still able to do extracurricular activities. It's taken a lot more time, a lot more energy to make sure that we're doing that in a very safe manner. And I just want to say thank you to our coaches and sponsors who have tried really hard to continue to stress social distancing, masking up, and doing everything they can do to keep their seasons and programs moving forward. So they deserve a pat on the back there. Evidence-based decision making. I know Mr. McKeon, I saw his board report, so I'm going to hold off on that so we're not duplicating efforts there. But thanking our food service departments for their efforts, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. Alignment, I'm excited to announce on September 23rd, Triton Senior Squad members will be sworn in at their first ever Senior Squad induction ceremony. We will have guest speaker and author Todd Gongwer join us to give the charge of leadership and what it takes to lead well in today's society. These scholars have been chosen by the 2019 Senior Squad and confirmed by Triton Junior Senior High School teachers and administrators as future leaders and displaying the potential to represent and lead their peers to a successful school year. These scholars will help lead multiple service opportunities, become student ambassadors, which is simply when we get a new student into Triton School Corporation or Triton Junior Senior High School, they will take them around, they will show them around and essentially be that first contact for that new child. There'll be mentors and examples to our pre-K through 12 students on our campus. Those members at this time are Alexis Whitehurst, Maddie Richardson, Ivy Powell, Hunter McIntyre, Brandon Kitch, Caleb Lemler, Dylan Fear, Hadassah Chuck, Haley Carson, Jalen Bulis, and Trenton Barnard. I do want to make note that Hadassah Chuck right now represents our student body on the Bourbon Town Council as a student delegate. If you remember last year, that was the first time we'd ever done that, and she's done a good job of giving feedback and input from a student perspective. Just a couple other noteworthy discussions that don't necessarily go along with core values is the old gym auction will take place on October 3rd. That will be at 10 a.m. As time gets closer, we'll be sure to advertise this sale, and we met with Ball Auction this week, and they've taken pictures, and they're continuing to work on the sale bill on that. I know people have reached out and are interested in that. Patrons will have the opportunity to bid on many of the salvageable contents of the old gym, but will also be given the opportunity, when advertised, to take a brick or a small piece of the floor if possible. Demolition on the old gym would likely take place at the very beginning of our fall break, so that's October 19th approximately. So, bargaining, just to report on that, we met with the Triton Teachers Association last week. Our next meeting will be on September 22nd when we can officially bargain our contracts, so that is going well. Our calendar, I put a calendar in front of you. This is the update. I know on August 3rd we met to change the start date. And so we were in the process of waiting for a possible waiver due to the fact that we had to delay the school year. That waiver was not approved, so we did hold tight on bringing a calendar out, what days were going to have to be made up, what days were not, and this is where we are at this time. Unless they come out with some other waiver situation, this is the latest calendar. So you can see the changes have been made on that as far as the new start date. The new eligibility dates and midterm dates have been communicated with the building levels, and so those were adjusted just based on making sure that the the semesters were as even as they possibly could be. Tennis courts are substantially completed, so that's a win for our students. Also, the dugouts are completed as well, so just continuing to make the facilities look as nice as they possibly can and continue to kind of be cohesive in our colors and just trying to make our campus look as nice as possible. And then last but not least, we have Miss Molly here tonight. So she was a member of the Triton volleyball team, the Big Blue Slam, on their tournament win on Saturday. So an impressive win. They are very talented, and we wish them the best as they continue throughout the season. So when they figure out they can win, I think they're going to go a long ways, and they figure out how to win. So we're proud of you guys. Good job, and keep up the good work. And that was a great win on Saturday.
Bruce and I have been watching a lot of the games on YouTube. It's a heck of
They're
a
fun to
team.
watch.
I
Yeah.
have one question though, Molly. Why? I'm trying to learn as much about volleyball as I can. But why are you different colors?
I'm like the leading passer in the back row, so I can fill in for anyone in the back row.
So and each team has one person like that? That's how that works?
And it's called the
Libero.
Libero.
Oh,
So, cool.
Molly's really stepped up this year.
Yeah.
Doing a great job.
Thank you.
So good work. So there's a lot of leaders on the team, and I think they want to be good and working hard to do that.
all right, we will move on to patrons' comments. Anyone have comment?
I will say we are recording this due to some internet concerns, and a lot of that is just protecting our greater internet piece, but we didn't get that taken care of before the board meeting tonight. So we appreciate your patience on that. If you do have any questions or any concerns, as always, feel free to call us at the administration building at 574-342-2255. We'd be more than happy to speak with you about those concerns or questions about anything that was discussed tonight.
We'll move on to building reports. Mrs. Cook?
So I guess I'd like to start again to say that this is the start of our 5th week. I feel like the last 4 weeks have been successful, not without, a few glitches, but I'm telling you, we've learned how to work through them. The kids are glad to be back. I think their parents are even happier than the kids are, but the kids are happy, and we're glad to have everybody. We have 7% of our students, which accounts to about 35 students, who are opting for the digital education. We've already had 4 come back that started digital, but then we've had a couple who went, but we're right at 7%. I think the teachers are really working hard to make it work while attending to the needs of the in-person students. New routines are becoming smoother, although they're still really awaiting when we can get back to our normal way of doing things, whatever that is. Students are doing a great job of wearing masks when they're required, hand sanitizing, sitting in assigned seats. They've been doing a great job at the playground. We've changed it so only 1 grade level is on there at a time, and homerooms are still together. We're separating on parts of the playground, and they're rotating throughout the week, and really, kids have been great about it. I mean, kids who would always only go play basketball, now we're finding out, oh, well, guess what? I could do other things this week. I don't have access to the basketball court, so I'm trying this, and I'm going to be on this module, or I'm going to be on the field another day. And so I actually think it's worked out pretty well, given us a variety, and we've been blessed with good weather. So all along, I don't know how long we can keep that going, but I appreciate that. The staff have really exercised extreme flexibility, and I feel like they've acquired some new digital skills, and they're having lots of opportunities to apply them. And so I think that's been great. Our specials teachers, except for Mr. Carpenter, have been going from class to class and moving around the building, pushing carts, taking their supplies with them so that kids can stay in their assigned seats. And it's extra work on their part. They don't get to use their lovely rooms that they have, the music room and the art room and the library. We have great facilities. Right now they're not using them, and I just appreciate them being flexible for that as well. We are beginning of the year data collection is finishing up at all grades, and data analysis sessions by grade level will happen this Wednesday and Thursday. We get together. It'll be interesting to see. We've already seen students coming in, not where we would normally be in a fall. We're usually a little bit lower in the fall anyway. Some students, maybe haven't lost, but in general, we'll see that we have work to do. And so I think that's, it'll be good to know exactly where we are. And we'll be starting interventions, small group instruction for those students in Title I. The following week, we are making sure that they are spread apart, where we used to have them come really close and be at tables, but we're trying to make this work and have them really spread out at desks because they are mixing homerooms. They won't always just be in their homeroom, so we're trying to spread them apart as well. But still, we know that intervention is really important. We have our first home volleyball game tomorrow night against Culver. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be the first time that we really have people coming in publicly to our elementary since March, I guess. So makes me a little bit nervous, but we're going to do it. And our sixth graders are looking forward to playing a match there. Today we started serving plated meals in the lunch line instead of sack lunches, which were served at their seats. So that means that students are actually going through the line. So we practiced that today, spots on the floor for them to wait. It means that it allows for our cafeteria to serve a wider variety of menu items. And our number of students purchasing lunches today was up by 50 over last week. So I think that's a good sign that maybe they were wanting, some other meal choices as well. We're still not back to where we had the alternative meals choices, but we're headed in the right direction. And I do appreciate the cafeteria staff for continuing to be flexible, creative, and efficient. So they've done a great job and still serving meals with a smile. I appreciate that. Our walkathon that we usually hold in the fall is scheduled for the week of September 28th. We are not going to be using it as a fundraiser this year. Last year we raised over $11,000. Everybody was extremely generous. And due to the school closure, a bunch of the proceeds are still sitting in grade level accounts instead of going to the end of the year field trips and study trips that didn't get to happen at the end of the year. So between, I feel like many family budgets being stretched to the maximum and not wanting students to go home to house, getting donations or anything, we've decided just to go ahead and move forward with it because we can be outside and walk laps and encourage fitness and emphasize that fitness and health and competition and not asking for donations. We plan to award smaller prizes to more students for walking and running laps. And so we're excited about that. I'm hoping for the great weather that we've had to continue and bless us that week. And we just appreciate everyone who donated and made last year's, walkathon so successful so that we could really do that during this time and still be okay. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. McCann?
All right, so after 4 weeks, I feel like things are running relatively smooth. Students and staff have adjusted to the changes, and overall kids have been very cooperative with the masks and the locker use. Tardies have not been an issue and seem to be less than just from what I've heard in the past, so that's a real positive. Dress code has also been addressed early on, and we've seen a decreased number of students that have been sent to the office for violations. So I think we addressed some of those questions early on, and I think everyone sees where we stand, and I think that's a good thing. So vape detectors are working. I'd like to clarify that. The phone goes off every once in a while, and we get an alert in the restroom that the detectors are working, and Mason, myself, Sarah, we'll rush to those restrooms, or we'll watch the cameras, and we will try to figure out who possible students might be that are vaping in the restroom. So we'll question those students. We also have metal detectors, handheld wands that we use to locate the vaping devices if they try and hide them. So I think the message is getting out to the student body that the vape detectors work. So hopefully students, they'll think twice about bringing that to school, especially think twice about using it. So at least that's our hope. This past Wednesday, I had the opportunity to sit and be part of the Ffa Officer Interviews, and that was a really neat experience for myself, but I think a great experience for our students that participated, and I was just really impressed by the job that our kids did. in an interview situation because that's very stressful. And I thought our kids handled that very well, so I was proud of them. The office continues to gather feedback from teachers, as well as looking at grades and attendance to determine which of our digital learners are struggling. We're trying to make contact with these families at least every other week, just to make sure parents are aware of how their kids are doing, and just to find out how as a school we can support those kids as they're learning from home. Right now we have 36 digital learners. And then just last, I'd like to thank Jamie McIntyre and the cafeteria staff. So last week, they made a transition to where they started serving hot meals and multiple options for kids, and that just went really well. And you would have thought there wasn't even a change. So they did an amazing job. The kids, I think, responded really well to it, and just every week, I think they get better and better at what they're doing, and they just find a better way to take on the challenge that we have ahead of us, and they've done an amazing job. So, and then my daughter tonight made a comment about whatever changes are happening at the elementary. That was exciting to her.
She liked the green beans.
I don't know what she liked, it was green beans, but I think she just liked to being able to go through a line and be served. So for as a first grader, that was exciting,
That
whatever
was
it was.
exciting.
So, but anyway, some real positive things going on. So, any questions for me? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I do want to just reiterate, just thanking our food service department. That's a big deal. They've been excited to amp that up, and I know we've probably not been as excited as them, just simply because it still feels very, very new. But they were ready to take the challenge on, and we have promised our community through all the blueprint videos and all of that we would look at our plan every 15 days. And I feel like we've tried our hardest to say what can we back up on a little bit. Or what do we still need to stay really, really tight on. So please know that we're continuing to look at that. We're not going to come out with a formal plan every time those adjustments are made, but you will continue to see those adjustments a little bit at a time as we continue to feel comfortable. So thank you, building level leaders, for leading that and continuing to have those conversations with our staff. But the end goal is to make sure we're keeping our kids safe. And so those will continue to happen a little bit at a time, but we're seeing a little bit of that progress, which is really exciting. So,
Thank you. All right, if there's no other business, we move to adjourn at 7:37.